What it is, my tin peace and grease here, and today we're talking about kit guns. Now, with the Fortuna update finally on console, we do have the ability to build 4 different kit guns. The Catchmoon, the Gaze, the Rattleguts, and the Tomb Finger. But you probably have the same questions I did. Are they worth building? Does anyone outshine the others? And more importantly, are they better than the secondaries we already have in the game? So, let's find out. Now, first things first, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about stats because depending on how you build your kit gun with which parts, your stats are going to differ. So instead, I'm going to be covering how effective the chambers are versus their stats. So the first one is the Catchmoon. Now, this has inherent heat damage, and of the 4, it is by far my favorite of the kit guns. It works incredibly well at murdering mobs of enemies. It just does. If you like the Archoplasmor, you will like the Catchmoon. It's just that simple. It's just that easy. So, to show you how effective this is and how well it works, I'm going to call up a selection of level 50 enemies, just a variety, just kind of a hodgepodge mix and match. Yep, it works pretty doggone well. As I said, of the 4, the Catchmoon, definitely my favorite. That brings us to the cons, the downside of the Catchmoon. And you're probably wondering, Peace, is there a downside to the Catchmoon? And the answer is, yeah, there's a few. The first is that the projectile is so large on this that when you're shooting at a distant target, any obstacle, no matter how small, will render the projectile null and void. Even though I'm clearly aiming at that pillar, it is hitting just enough of the terminal to actually block the shot. Alright. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I've noticed about the Catchmoon is that apparently the projectile starts a distance away from the end of the barrel, or the muzzle. As a result, I've had enemies right next to me, and even though I've been aiming at them point blank, trying to shoot them, I can't. I literally will have to stop, back away from the enemy in order to be able to shoot them. So it seems as if the projectile starts a pretty good distance away from the end of the barrel. So that's something else you're going to need to keep in mind. So when using the Catchmoon, you want to make sure you have a wide open, clear area where you won't have any obstructions get in your way, and you want to make sure that the enemy isn't too close to you. In that same sense, though, you need to make sure the enemy is not too far away, because just like the Archoplasmor, you have limited range with the Catchmoon. So as a result, yeah, there's kind of a happy medium where you're going to be able to murder enemies pretty much freely. But that's the Catchmoon. Of the 4, definitely one that I would recommend building because, yeah, it works wonderfully. It just does. So the next one we're going to be talking about is the Gaze. Now, the Gaze is a beam weapon with inherent radiation. Yeah, the Gaze. The biggest problem with the Gaze is that there are already so many great secondary beam weapons that it's just outclassed. It just gets outshined constantly. And you kind of have to wonder, why would I run the Gaze over, a beam weapon that already exists in the game, for example? To kind of show you this, let's take the Cyanoid Gamma Core, another beam weapon, as an example. Same enemies. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Gaze just gets outshined and outclassed by a lot of beam weapons that already exist in the game. So ultimately, yeah, I don't recommend the Gaze as a result. So the next one that we're going to be talking about is the Rattle Guts, and sadly the Rattle Guts suffers from the same exact problem that the Gaze does. We already have a huge selection of fast-firing full auto secondaries in the game. So why run the Rattle Guts over one of those? So let's take, for example, the Azima. Now the Azima is a singular, fast-firing, full auto, secondary. And why not run it over the Rattle Guts, for example? Now I'm not going to be using the disc, obviously, on the Azima because that kind of defeats the purpose. But just to kind of give you an example. Yeah. The Azima, while maybe not great, is far more effective than the Rattle Guts. Now, I think that the Rattle Guts does have potential. There have been numerous times where it has been very effective against certain enemies. So I think there's potential there. But then the question ultimately is, why should I use the Rattle Guts and get it up to a certain level when some other secondaries in the game of Warframe are already starting off there, where I'm having to work the Rattle Guts or Gaze up to that point? Some secondaries are already just at that level naturally. So that brings us to the Tomb Finger. Now the Tomb Finger is a weapon that, I'm just going to be upfront with you guys. I hate it. I don't like it. With that said, though, it works. It does. It works. It will murderize plenty of enemies. It will. That's really kind of the end goal here, isn't it? Like, that's what we're trying to achieve, or what we're trying to accomplish. And the Tomb Finger, with inherent radiation again, it works. So, I think that's a measure of any weapon in Warframe, is how well it murderizes enemies, right? That's, at least for me personally and many others, that's how we judge a weapon's inherent value, is by how well it murderizes enemies. And the Tomb Finger, it works. It does. It works. Am I a fan of it? Yeah, no. Am I going to use it? Yeah, probably not very much. As I said, of the four, I definitely prefer the Ketchum. Now, side note, I do have several friends that play Warframe on PC, and I have been told by many of them that the Tomb Finger Kit Gun is kind of becoming one of the preferred secondaries for fighting Orb Mothers. Now, this is an activity that we will get in the next Fortuna update for console. And when we do, apparently the Tomb Finger is becoming a very popular secondary selection for fighting those giant spiders in Orbalis. So that may be something that, a factor you want to consider. Maybe you want to start building a Tomb Finger now. Obviously, your choice, your decision to do so. So that when we do get that update to fight Orb Mothers, yeah, we can do so. Needless to say, personal preference, you do what you like to do. So, what's my final verdict on kit guns? Well, let me put it to you this way. Even with the existence of kit guns right now, 99.9 repeating % of the time, when I go to my arsenal, I am not equipping a kit gun. 99.9 repeating % of the time, I am equipping a secondary that already exists in the game. They're effective, they work, they tend to kill enemies far more quickly, far more efficiently, in less shots, and will, at least from what I'm seeing, will continually go to higher and higher levels of enemies, whereas the kit guns seem to kind of peter out after a certain point. Now, in arcades, you may be wondering about them, because there are specific special arcanes for just the kit guns. And you could certainly argue the case that kit guns are nothing more than a fancy arcane holder. Now, why is this important? Well, let's talk about the arcanes really briefly here, so you can kind of get an idea. But essentially, there are some really good arcanes that came with the kit guns. As a result, yeah, I've got to recommend a few. You have the Pax Bolt, for example. The Pax Bolt, when you get a headshot kill, you get more ability efficiency and power strength. Yeah. And that goes up to 30% at max rank. And you have a 50-50 shot at getting this buff. Yeah. And I can tell you for a fact, arcanes tend to actually kick in pretty frequently. The next one that you can look at is the the Pax Charge, which basically converts a typical ammunition type of kit gun into battery powered, like a beam weapon. Next we have the Seeker, which again, when you get a headshot kill, you have a 100% chance to have 4 projectiles burst from the enemy that you just killed and seek out other enemies' heads. It's interesting, it's unique. It's kind of fun to watch. It is. And then finally we have the Pax Soar, which is very good. All you have to do is just be airborne, and you get a 50-50 chance at reduced weapon recoil, more aim glide, more wall latch time, and increased accuracy. Yeah, that's awesome. When you need those types of arcanes, when you need those types of buffs, there they are. So do I recommend the arcanes? Absolutely. I recommend getting a full set of each. Right? Why wouldn't you? Again, it just simply makes sense. So to argue the case that kit guns are nothing more than arcane holders, yeah, I would tend to agree. Now, obviously there are more kit guns coming down the pipeline. Probably in the very next Fortuna update, we will receive more kit guns, and maybe the kit guns will get better and better. I can tell you in regards to the Zaws on Cetus, it took Plague Star before it finally got a Zaw that I actually really enjoyed using, and to this day continue using it. So as a result, it may take DE some time to kind of figure out, get the kinks and wrinkles out of it before they finally potentially drop a kit gun that's really good. All that said, though, I do recommend the Catch Gun. It works very well. Again, if you're a fan of the Plasmor, you will love the Catch Moon. But let me know down in the comment section below what your thoughts and opinions are on the kit guns and which one your favorite is. And until next time, peace and grace.